Coming up on today's show.
The first symptom that a lot of people experience with stress and depression is feeling overwhelmed.
So, some people don't always make the association between clutter and maybe some things like depression or stress. And from what I understand, there's been a lot of research done on this.
Sure. If someone is becoming way stressed out or depressed, they're feeling really down, well, getting things done around the house isn't their first choice.
How stress, depression, and clutter are related today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we're going to look at the relationship between stress, between depression, and clutter, and how do they all relate together? And with us is Julie Ulmer from mindingyourmanner.com. Julie, welcome to Keeping You Organized.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, great. Some people don't always make the association between clutter and maybe some things like depression or stress. And from what I understand, there's been a lot of research done on this.
Sure. There are a lot of studies that are showing that people are overwhelmed and with clutter, of course. The first symptom that a lot of people experience with stress and depression is feeling overwhelmed. So the two can really feed on each other and create a vicious cycle. If someone is becoming way stressed out or depressed, they're feeling really down, well, getting things done around the house isn't their first choice, especially when people are experiencing depression. The fun things that they enjoy doing in life are one of the first things to go. So you can imagine the not so fun things like keeping your house in order. That's going to slide downhill too.
Well, now let me get this straight because I don't know if I quite have it right. Do you think that clutter can cause stress or depression, or that stress and depression maybe cause someone to be, not into picking up or whatever it is involved, and I know that clutter covers a wide spectrum too.
Yeah, it's the chicken and the egg, really, in this kind of circumstance. If someone is having okay times, they're feeling great, and then they experience something devastating. Perhaps they've lost a job or they lost a loved one. It becomes harder and harder for them to stay on track with their daily routines, which could be dealing with the mail or dealing with housekeeping and whatnot. And so those things start to slide, and they just kind of feed off of each other into a cycle.
Right.
The same way in reverse, if that you already have clutter and then you start feeling depressed for whatever reasons, it starts to feed off of each other because your mind is so fatigued when you look around you at all these things, you feel totally overwhelmed. So overwhelming is one of those emotions that clutter causes, that depression causes, and it's the biggest thing that keeps people from getting up and getting going and getting started to try to right the situation.
Well, let's say, as a professional organizer, then you meet with a client and you may assess this situation. What are some quick tips or ways to come to this conclusion, or do you need to send someone off to a doctor, or how do you deal with this, and maybe even have a story of maybe how you've dealt with someone like that?
Sure. Well, I do have my own experience with depression over the years, and I've suffered from seasonal affective disorder, and I had postpartum depression with my daughter. So oftentimes I can hear something in someone's voice when we're talking in our initial conversations, especially when they use words like overwhelmed, I'm stressed, this is hopeless, I feel helpless. Those are all kind of key words that might lead me to believe that someone is having a difficult time above and beyond just getting through life on an everyday basis. So my suggestion is that, of course, I'm not a doctor or a psychologist or a therapist of any sort, and I always clue clients into the idea that maybe you're down. Are you feeling not yourself? Have you had trouble sleeping lately? Have you had weight loss, weight gain? Have you lost joy in some of your hobbies or crafts or things that you really enjoy doing? And when I start to get the picture from someone that these are all coming together, and their answers are yes to some of these things, then I can really open up and say, you know what, I know how you feel. I really do, because I have been through it. And it gives us a little bit of a rapport to start working on, okay, have you seen a doctor yet? I do suggest you see a doctor. Maybe they need to keep a journal for a few days or a few weeks and write down how they're feeling and how often, how many times a day are they feeling like crying or feeling like, the world could come to an end and I just don't care. So keeping that kind of clues them in a little bit more to, when I read back at this doesn't sound like somebody who's dealing with life. So what we try to do then, whether they go to the doctor or not, sometimes they've already been in some sort of therapy or treatment. I've actually been referred to from psychiatrists and psychologists who have dealt with people who've had chronic disorganization or dealing with depression. And so we already know from the get-go what is going on. They might be doing things on their behalf, such as medication. They might be using light therapy. If they suffer from seasonal affective disorder, they may be on medication, like I said. They may be doing things to take better care of their health, such as exercising and eating better.
What about somebody who is maybe not clinically depressed or doesn't have to see a doctor, but is, we all can get to a certain degree of overwhelm.
Sure.
What are some of the things that they can do to maybe get over that little hump and start to get organized?
Sure. Well, the first thing is always to start off small, really small. You don't want to get overwhelmed with the process, because starting is, of course, the hardest part of the whole aspect of it. So starting off, even if you set a timer for 10 minutes, and I like to direct people to start in their critical points, what I consider the heavy hit areas in most homes that are the first to kind of go downhill because of the way we use them, such as sinks, kitchen counters, bathrooms. Those are the places that things can get out of control really quickly. Laundry is another area where if you don't feel like getting out of bed, you sure don't feel like doing laundry. So setting the timer is one way, and going from top to bottom and left to right, because focus is definitely something that's lacking, and it's too easy to go into one room, find things that need to be put away, head off to the other room to put them away, get distracted, and then you're chasing your tail. You're going around in circles. So when I ask clients, of course, very few of their rooms are round, to pick a corner, start in that corner, and go top to bottom, and go left to right. You've touched on everything in that area, and even if it's one bookcase or two shelves or three drawers, you've touched on it, you've been there, and you can start to find some progress.
Right.
Yeah. Visual.
Well, I think I'm just thinking here, like whenever maybe I have a room cleaned up, or even like your bed made in the morning, you look at that room with different eyes and you say, oh, okay, this feels good. It feels good to look tidy,
Sure,
right?
Sure. Creative visualization is another good thing that people can use to get themselves motivated to get up and get going. Granted, you might be looking around you and there's all sorts of things that you haven't taken care of, you've let go, or that just seem to be overwhelming you. Stopping for a few minutes, closing your eyes, thinking about that room, either how it has been in the past or how you would like to see it in the future, and start to get that visualization going, which kind of gets the motivation going to, well, all right, now I know in my mind what I want it to look like. Let's get up and try to start working on it.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick little break here. When we come back, I want to go back to maybe the other side of the spectrum and, the seasonal affective disorder, which can really happen, depending on where you live. It can be any time of year. So we're with Julie Ulmer from mindingyourmanner.com talking about the relationship between clutter, stress, and depression. And we'll be right back. Are you looking to get your office organized but don't know where to start? And what can you really do to keep your office organized? Smead has put together a new ebook to help you answer these exact questions. We've compiled the best tips from professional organizers around the country to help you tackle the most common office organizing challenges. Go to smead.com/office organization and get your free copy today. That's smead.com/office organization. The new organization for the office ebook from Smead, keeping you organized. We are back now on Keeping You Organized, looking at the relationship between stress, depression, and clutter. How do they work together? And is clutter the cause, or is the stress or the depression the cause? And I think we're finding out there's a lot of different ways you can analyze it. And with us is Julie Ulmer from mindingyourmanor.com. And Julie, before the break, we kind of were talking about maybe the side of the spectrum where, you know, it's overwhelmed that a lot of us get. And, you know, we did a couple quick little SWAT team things, get a quick victory, get a one room clean, or do it for 10 minutes. But let's talk a little bit more on the serious end and seasonal affective disorder. And that's really more than just a couple months in winter. And especially tell us a little bit about how that relates to stress and maybe some of the chemical reaction behind that as well.
Sure. For a lot of people, it can start early in the fall, as early as September and it's October, all the way through the winter into May and June. Depending on where your relation is with the equator, it basically is a lack of the kind of sunshine that we need that basically sets our circadian rhythms. So researchers believe that there are two things going on, that possibly it's those rhythms that get thrown off. There's also the possibility of a vitamin D deficiency, which can cause fatigue and lack of energy. And there are researchers who believe that there are neurotransmitters that have difficulty firing in their normal pattern because of that rhythm being tossed away and thrown off. So it was obviously something that came up in, well, not obviously, but in Norwegian countries, in Sweden, in Greenland, and Iceland years ago in the 60s and 70s. And it's become more accepted in areas of North America where, let's say, New England, you know, it can be severe winter really from November all the way through until, April before you can get outside and get that natural sunlight going and get the sun on your skin and get the vitamin D in your eyes and start to feel more vibrant and energy.
Now, let me ask you this then. Do you think that people's homes or offices are more cluttered in the wintertime than summer? I mean, I've never heard a statistic about that, but do you think that might be true?
Well, when you get frozen in the middle of winter with an awful lot of snow, which can happen to us over the recent years, it's harder to get things out of the house. It's harder to clear out things like garages or basements, attics if you haven't already done it. It might be daunting to even drop off that box of donations. Let's say, you know, the roads are slick with snow. You just don't feel like going out if it's bitterly cold. So I think that with the holidays in the middle of winter and that deep freeze for a lot of us here in North America, in the spring months such as February and March, where you can still have significant snowfall, significant snowpack, that it makes it just more difficult to do anything other than kind of curl up with a cat in the corner and just lay low until spring
Maybe that's
comes.
why this phenomenon of spring cleaning is so prevalent too. People they're stir crazy and they get a little pumped up and they want to, the excuse is, well, I want to be outside, so I want to take care of my cleaning. But maybe they've just gotten enough, serotonin or something to give them the motivation. I don't know. Have you heard anything like that before?
Well, you know what? One of the things that I think strikes us is a lot of the habits that we lose when we're in the deep freeze, such as going outside for a walk, playing with the dog in the yard, perhaps, outside activities that we usually enjoy during the nicer months, bicycling and whatnot. We kind of get stymied in the wintertime. Maybe we're gaining weight. We still haven't got those holiday pounds off. But the excitement of spring, the idea of swimsuit season coming up, kind of gets people going to start maybe feeling like eating more healthfully, especially, getting away from the soups and the stews from wintertime and getting to the lighter, fresher ingredients of spring and summer, which is really great for any type of stress, depression, especially seasonal affective disorder. One of the unusual aspects of it is craving for carbohydrates, especially sweet carbohydrates, which is actually your body's way of saying, you know what, I can't take all this. I just need to shut down. And of course, we know sweet carbs just make you want to go to sleep, and they're not very good for energy. So beginning to start looking at your diet too and deciding, what am I eating a lot of these days? And as it becomes spring and asparagus is coming up and lighter salads are coming, hopefully you start craving those more, getting away from the heavy food of the winter.
I know one of our previous podcast episodes, we talk about, being healthy so you can get more organized, and same kinds of things there, good diet, good sleep gets you in the right physical state of mind.
Sure. And it's a good way to get started if you're going to start a decluttering project. You want to get yourself in comfortable clothes. Make sure you've had a good meal that has energy in it, such as lean protein. Stay away from the carbs, maybe some light fruit, some veggies, and you can start getting into having a water bottle with you as you're ready to declutter. I always ask my clients to have a sport water bottle or something ready to go to be fed, dressed, and ready to rock and roll, basically. If you're going to go into battle, so to speak, even if it's only 10 minutes at a time, if you're in those beginning baby steps, it's good to go in it without the distractions of, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I've got to stop and go get a drink.
Well, let's talk about the idea that, okay, we've kind of got our situation resolved, we've gotten organized. How do you maintain? How do you keep a well-organized and decluttered home or office, for that matter, in that shape without kind of backpedaling?
Maintenance is the key, just what you were talking about, and again, I think it's critical points, and it's focusing on what is coming into the home, and of course, mail is a big thing. If you start to imagine what you're walking home with every day, is it a briefcase, a knapsack, a purse, or is it a few grocery bags? Have you been to a chain store? Have you been to a department store? What kind of stuff are you bringing in? And start to kind of understand, when you're thinking about purchasing things, where's this going to live in my house? Am I going to be using this 3 to 4 years from now? What is my intended use for this? Do I really envision myself using this? Or is it a unitasker, something that is like a pineapple core? It's kind of roomy. It takes up a certain amount of space in the kitchen. You could achieve the same results with a knife. So being very mindful when you're out and about purchasing. And then when you're home, of course, here's what I like to call the department store mentality. When you're home and you're thinking about the like with like, and you're thinking about, where do I put this to live? Where should this live? I like to challenge people by asking them, well, where would you go in a box store to find that item? If I asked you to pick up a hammer or batteries or some paint stirring sticks, your first reaction would probably go to the home improvement section. So when you start to apply that department store mentality in your own home, it's easier to get like with like, to realize where homes are, and to get everybody else in the household on board.
Well, those are some phenomenal tips, not only for getting organized and getting over the hump, and some of it may involve outside help, but for the other end of the spectrum, it may be just getting a quick start, getting decluttered, getting organized, and then having a good maintenance system. Let's talk, we just got a little bit of time left, about your business and where you practice and what kind of clients you are looking for.
Sure. I'm about 30 minutes south of Albany, New York, which is the capital of New York. My local area, as well as the Berkshires, which is I'm just on the border of Western Massachusetts. My clients have all sorts of different needs. Some are chronically disorganized. Some are just looking to downsize. I certainly help a certain amount of seniors who are relocating, moving into a new situation. They need to go through a home that has, years
Great.
and years of stuff. Moving and relocating, helping people combine two homes, perhaps it's a new family situation that's coming together, and also dealing with adult children who deal with absorbing their parents' estate, something I've done myself a couple of times, but with my dad, different times where I got things, I inherited things, and then it's like, okay, now, where is this going to live? Do I love this? Am I going to feel good about this when I look at it all the time? Or am I just taking it from my loved one because I feel guilty that I'm going to say no? So helping people when they absorb those big inheritances that they may have planned for, maybe not, but we can't combine multiple households all the time. So what do we keep? What do we love? This good energy that we've had with our past loved one. And then let's lose the stuff that we don't like. Keep the best of the best, lose the rest.
All right. And what is your website that people can get a hold of you at?
It's mindingyourmanor.com.
Okay, great. Well, we will have that in our show notes. And Julie, I want to thank you for spending this time talking about probably a tough situation where sometimes, depression and stress, people don't like to deal with it, talk about it even, but how it relates to, helping you overcome being cluttered. And we'll have you back on another episode and talk further about just ways to get decluttered and move on in our life and get over those things that are maybe a little more challenging. So it's Julie Ulmer, mindingyourmanor.com, today on Keeping You Organized. Coming up next time on Keeping You Organized.
Well, I noticed that a lot of my clients were complaining about not getting enough sleep. And, everybody talks about it, and there's all kinds of articles about it. And I myself have suffered from that at times.